Welcome to Stories for Sleep, a place where stories do not awaken you further, but gently soften you. Here, we do not chase the hurried rhythm of the daytime world. We move slowly, we breathe deeply, and we listen to things that may seem intense with a calmer mind. Tonight, our topic is the most fascinating facts about sharks to help you sleep. You may be surprised. Sharks and sleep sound like opposites, yet it is precisely in the image of a fin cutting through dark water that we touch a very human, primal fear. And when illuminated by understanding that fear gradually dissolves into curiosity and then into respect. In this video, you will discover gentle, wondrous truths about a creature that has existed for hundreds of millions of years. Not through a sensational lens, but through a slow, soothing rhythm, suitable for listening before drifting into sleep. If you appreciate journeys that explore the mind and the world in such a contemplative way, consider subscribing to Stories for Sleep so you do not miss the stories to come. As night falls and the room gradually sinks into stillness, perhaps an image has once appeared in your mind, a vast, dark surface of water, and a silent fin gliding through it. Shark. The name alone can stir a vague unease, as though the ocean conceals something fierce waiting. For decades, we have been taught to see sharks as symbols of danger. Sharp teeth, sudden attacks, shadows beneath the water. But what if that fear is only part of the story? What if behind the frightening image stands an ancient, refined, and quieter being than we ever imagined? From the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, what we fear often reflects the shadow within, our own psyche, the part not yet understood, not yet illuminated. Sharks, perhaps, are not merely creatures of the sea. They are symbols of primal fear, of depths we have not yet dared to face. And tonight, instead of turning away from that image, we will gently descend together, slowly, tenderly, to explore. You will learn that sharks existed long before the dinosaurs, surviving 5 mass extinctions of Earth. You will discover the subtle senses that allow them to read the ocean like a map of invisible signals. You will see that not all sharks are alike. Some are gentle giants feeding on plankton. Others glow within the deep darkness. And beyond that, you will come to understand their quiet role in maintaining balance within vast ecosystems. This video is not meant to make your heart race. It is a soothing journey. A journey that transforms fear into curiosity, misunderstanding into respect. As you listen, each fascinating fact unfolds like a small wave. Not loud, not threatening, just enough for you to feel the wonder of the ocean and of your own mind. For perhaps, when we understand what we once feared, we also come to understand a hidden part of ourselves. And that is where sleep begins to grow more peaceful. Part 1. Decoding the fear of sharks. When sharks are mentioned, the first thing that appears in many minds is not curiosity, but a slight tightening in the chest. A dark surface of water. A fin cutting across the horizon. Sharp teeth hidden in the depths. That image has been repeated so often in popular culture that it has almost become a collective reflex. Shark equals danger. Shark equals threat. Shark equals fear. But tonight, as every sound gradually softens, and you allow yourself to listen with a slower mind, we may gently ask, what is truly making us afraid? Is it the shark in the ocean, or something older, deeper within the human psyche? Through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung, fear is never merely a reaction to an external object. It is often a doorway into the shadow, the unconscious realm that holds our primal instincts, our survival impulses, the parts of ourselves not yet fully understood. In some way, the shark has become a perfect symbol of that shadow, silent, powerful, emerging from depths we cannot clearly see. The ocean has always evoked in us a feeling both mesmerizing and uneasy. We know that most life on the planet lies beneath its surface, yet we also know it is a world we do not control. When a creature like the shark appears in our imagination, it carries with it all those unseen elements: depth, darkness, uncertainty. And so the image of sharp teeth becomes a symbol of the fear of being swallowed by what we do not understand. But if we pause long enough, we begin to see that the story is far more complex. Sharks are not blind machines of attack. They are ancient beings appearing hundreds of millions of years ago, before the dinosaurs, before the first forests grew upon the land. When continents had not yet taken their present shapes, when life was still experimenting with its most basic forms, sharks were already swimming in the primordial seas. Since then, they have survived 5 mass extinctions events, powerful enough to erase most life on Earth. Pause for a moment and feel that. 5 times the world nearly collapsed. 5 times global ecosystems were restructured. And through those upheavals, sharks remained. To call them survival machines is not exaggeration. It is recognition of a biological design tested across stretches of time longer than any human civilization. Their lightweight, flexible cartilage skeleton conserves energy. Their refined sensory systems allow them to read invisible signals in the water. Their ability to adapt to diverse environments, from warm coastal shallows to cold ocean depths, makes them one of the most enduring lineages on the planet. So why has a creature with such an extraordinary evolutionary history been reduced to a symbol of terror? Perhaps because humans tend to fear what they cannot control. Sharks represent a natural force indifferent to our emotions. They are not malicious. They do not hate. They simply exist according to the laws of ocean survival. Yet in our imagination, that neutrality is easily interpreted as menace. Jung once suggested that what we fail to make conscious will direct us as fate. When we do not understand our fear, we project it outward. The shark becomes a screen upon which we cast our anxieties about death, fragility, and the realization that we are not the apex being in every environment. And yet when perspective shifts, something subtle happens. Fear begins to soften. When we learn that most shark species are small and entirely harmless to humans. When we understand that rare bite incidents are often cases of mistaken identity and poor visibility. When we recognize that sharks spend most of their time hunting fish, migrating, or simply swimming steadily through familiar waters, the image of monster begins to lose its weight. In its place, we see a creature doing what it has done for hundreds of millions of years, maintaining balance within marine ecosystems. Here, the narrative turns from fear to respect. As apex predators, sharks remove weak or sick individuals, strengthening prey populations. Their presence influences the behavior of other species, preventing overgrazing in certain areas and indirectly protecting seagrass beds and coral reefs. When sharks disappear from a region, cascading effects can destabilize entire ecosystems. In other words, what we once saw as chaos is in fact a pillar of order. Perhaps this is the first lesson sharks offer the human mind. What we fear most may sometimes be what keeps a system stable. In our inner lives, the shadow works similarly. Emotions we reject, anger, jealousy, survival instinct, when understood and integrated, can become powerful sources of energy. When denied, they may erupt in distorted forms. Sharks, then, are not only creatures of the sea, they are reminders to face rather than avoid. Tonight, as you lie down and allow the image of dark water to rise in your imagination, you may see something different. Not a sudden lunge, but a long body gliding in silence, rhythmic, precise. A movement refined over millions of years of evolution. Not hurried, not dramatic, simply suited to its environment. And perhaps in that moment, fear begins to transform into awe. Because when panic is replaced by understanding, what remains is not danger but the beauty of adaptation. Not merely teeth, but an evolutionary history behind them. Not darkness, but depth. The opening message of this journey is gentle. Instead of fearing, explore. Instead of turning away, understand. For in learning about sharks, we are also learning about the deeper regions within ourselves. And as understanding grows, sleep becomes lighter. we are no longer fleeing the dark. We begin to see its shape and recognize that sometimes it is simply a natural part of the vast world in which we live. Part 2. Prehistoric Legacy Survivors from Before the Dinosaurs. If we step far back from the present, beyond illuminated cities, beyond human history, beyond even the first dense forests that covered the land, we arrive at a world almost unimaginable. An Earth largely covered by vast oceans, life experimenting with its most primitive forms. And in those ancient waters, sharks swam. Before trees, before dinosaurs, before the first sounds of life on land, heard in the stillness of night, this may evoke a quiet reverence. Sharks are not merely creatures of the present, they are legacies of deep time, survivors from eras when sky, continent, and climate were utterly different from today. In Jung's contemplative view, there is something meaningful in what endures across time. He spoke of archetypes within the collective unconscious, ancient patterns transmitted across generations. Sharks, in their own way, resemble a biological archetype of survival, a form tested, restructured, refined over hundreds of millions of years. Their evolutionary history is not linear but branching, countless lineages gone, countless others persisting. Each shark alive today is the result of continuous selection across unimaginable spans of time, a design repeatedly revised by environment and necessity. There is humility in this reflection. Humanity, with all its technology and ambition, occupies only a brief moment in Earth's story. Sharks swam when continents formed a single supercontinent. They witnessed the rise and fall of dominant species. Part of their resilience lies in what seems like simplicity. Their cartilage skeleton is lighter and more flexible than bone, allowing efficient energy-saving movement. In an environment where every motion expends energy, such economy becomes survival. There is a gentle lesson here. More complexity is not always better. Sometimes flexibility, adaptation, and conservation are the keys to longevity. Jung emphasized that a healthy psyche is not rigid but capable of adjusting between opposites. When we cling too tightly to fixed structures, we fracture under change. When we remain flexible, we bend without breaking. Sharks embody this flexibility. They rely on efficiency, attunement to currents, responsiveness to environment. In this awareness, daily anxieties shrink slightly. Today's tensions become small points within a vast historical flow. If sharks endured planetary upheavals, perhaps we too can navigate life's changes by becoming lighter, less rigid, more adaptive. Their prehistoric legacy is not only biological, it is a quiet testament to persistence, to adaptation rather than resistance. And as you drift towards sleep, this reflection may soothe you. Life has changed countless times and yet it continues. You do not need to be perfect to endure. You need only be flexible enough to adapt. Like the light cartilage skeleton of a shark, allow yourself to feel a little lighter. Like branching evolution, allow yourself to change. Like the ancient ocean, allow your mind to grow still. Time, rather than threatening, may be supporting you as it has supported sharks for hundreds of millions of years. Part 3. Body structure. A machine refined for movement. When we watch a shark glide through water, what we first perceive is not aggression but motion, fluid, almost hypnotic. A soft curve slicing through the sea, as though water were shaped to hold that body. Beneath that apparent simplicity lies a biological machine refined over hundreds of millions of years. In Jung's reflective spirit, enduring structures embody balance between flexibility and stability. Sharks do not carry heavy bones. Their cartilage framework is lighter, more elastic, resilient. It allows them to bend with currents, minimizing energy expenditure while maintaining remarkable speed. There is a quiet beauty in such flexibility. Cartilage does not resist the water, it cooperates with it. Perhaps this is also a metaphor for the psyche. When rigid in belief or expectation, we become heavy against change. When flexible, not weak but supple, we move through life's currents without losing ourselves. Their skin, covered in microscopic tooth-like scales called dermal denticles, reduces drag. Even tiny structures serve efficiency. In the same way, small inner adjustments, patience, compassion, attentive listening reduce friction in our relationships and lives. Sharks lack swim bladders. Instead, a large oil-filled liver provides buoyancy and energy storage, an internal support system. Psychologically, maturity involves building such an inner center, no longer relying entirely on external validation, but drawing from inner reserves. Some species can even warm their muscles, brains, and eyes above surrounding water temperature, maintaining internal warmth in cold depths. It is an image of consciousness bringing light into the unconscious, warmth into cold shadow. Even their teeth, often feared, reveal a different story. Continuously replaced, they demonstrate renewal. No clinging to what is lost. When one tooth falls, another moves forward. In psychological growth, old beliefs or roles may also need replacing. Taken together, flexible skeleton, drag-reducing skin, buoyant liver, internal warmth, regenerative teeth, every element serves movement, not display, not excess, purpose. As you lie quietly now, perhaps you sense that your own body is also a finely tuned structure. Heart steady, breath rhythmic, nervous system easing into rest. You do not need to control each process. Your body knows. Like a shark gliding through water without conscious calculation, you may trust your deeper design. Millions of years shaped this nervous system. Countless experiences shaped this mind. You are not random. You are continuously refined. Each day is a small adjustment. Each night, a silent renewal. Sharks do not fight the ocean. They merge with it. And as you drift towards sleep, you too may merge with the night, trusting that your inner structure is intelligent enough, flexible enough, refined enough to continue moving even in rest. Movement without noise, strength without display, renewal without drama. And in the stillness of this night, you too are being quietly refined, breath by breath, dream by dream for the journey that awaits tomorrow. Part 4: Extraordinary Sensory System. A world that is never silent. Perhaps what makes sharks mysterious does not lie in their teeth or their speed, but in the way they experience the world. When we enter the ocean, we feel vastness, even emptiness. Everything seems deep blue and still. But for sharks, the ocean has never been silent. It is a space dense with signals, a network of vibrations and currents constantly conversing with their bodies. Sharks do not merely see the ocean, they read it. Their sense of smell is so sensitive that they can detect blood or chemicals from great distances at extraordinarily low concentrations. Yet if we listen to this story with a gentler mind, we realize this is not only about hunting, it is about sensing subtle changes in the environment, things the eye cannot see yet that are undeniably present. In the inner world of human beings, there are such invisible scents as well. A slight change in a loved one's voice, a fleeting glance, an unusual silence. We may not always consciously register them, yet our bodies and minds perceive them. Through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung, the unconscious part of us is always active, gathering signals and weaving them into meaning before the rational mind has time to name them. Beyond smell, sharks can detect extremely faint electrical fields emitted by the heartbeat and muscles of prey. Special organs called ampullae of Lorenzini allow them to hear the pulse of life hidden beneath water and sand. Imagine that in near total darkness, they still know that a heart is beating somewhere ahead. This is not only biological capacity, it resembles a metaphor for intuition. There are moments when we know something without being able to explain it clearly. A quiet sense of the right direction. A subtle feeling that we should stop or continue. Jung described this as the activity of the personal and collective unconscious, where experiences deeper than reason accumulate and guide us through delicate signals. Sharks also possess a lateral line system, a band of sensors running along their bodies that allows them to perceive vibrations and water pressure around them. When another creature moves, the water changes. When there is a small disturbance in the environment, pressure shifts, and sharks recognize it instantly. In human life, pressure is also a kind of signal. The tension in a room, the heaviness of a conversation not yet spoken, the subtle fluctuations in a relationship. If we are quiet enough, we can sense these changes before they erupt into conflict. Sharks' hearing is particularly sensitive to low frequencies, the sounds made by injured fish or struggling creatures. For them, the ocean is never quiet. It constantly hums with deep tones like the whispers of life and survival. Perhaps within our own souls there are such low frequencies, quiet emotions, unspoken sadness, wordless longings. During the day, the noise of work and responsibility may cover them. But when night falls, when space grows still, we begin to hear more clearly. And if we are brave enough to listen, we understand ourselves more deeply. Some shark species can even sense the Earth's magnetic field to navigate long journeys across the ocean. They do not rely only on what is near. They connect to the planet's vast force field. In waters that seem directionless, they still have orientation. This reminds us of the human need for meaning. We do not live on immediate signals alone. We require an inner magnetic field, a value system, a deeper orientation to guide us. Jung believed that human beings cannot remain psychologically healthy without a sense of purpose. When we connect to something larger than ourselves, an ideal, a belief, a path of growth, we resemble sharks, sensing the magnetic field, no longer drifting aimlessly. And along the surface of their skin, fine receptors continue to read the currents. Water is not merely an environment. It is a text continuously being written. Every swirl, every small shift carries information. Sharks live within a map of invisible signals. If we pause and breathe more slowly, we may realize that our own world is filled with signals as well. A message arriving at just the right moment. An unexpected memory resurfacing, a dream repeating itself. These are not always random. They may be the electrical fields of psychological life inviting our attention. Through Jung's perspective, dreams are another ocean, a realm where the unconscious sends symbolic signals. If we learn to listen, we will no longer fear our own darkness. We will recognize that within that darkness there is still a heartbeat, still guidance. When we think of sharks in this way, their image begins to change. They are not merely predators, they are masters of listening. Not listening only with ears, but with the whole body. Every cell is an antenna. Every movement is a response to received information. Perhaps in modern life, we have forgotten how to listen like this. We look much but do not read. We hear much but do not feel. We swim in an ocean of data, yet rarely attend to the subtle signals of the soul. Tonight, as you lie down and close your eyes, imagine that you too possess such a profound sensory system. Feel your heartbeat, a small yet persistent electrical field. Hear your breath, a steady, low frequency. Notice the pressure of your body against the mattress, a gentle lateral line, reminding you that you are supported. You are not in absolute silence. Your body is conversing with you. Your mind is sending delicate signals, and like a shark in the deep ocean, you can learn to read them instead of fearing them. The ocean has never been silent, and neither has your soul. But when we stop resisting the inner sounds, when we stop trying to force everything to be quiet, we begin to hear the deeper rhythm of life, the heartbeat, the breathing lungs, the flow of thoughts arriving and departing. Sharks swim within an invisible map woven from scent, vibration, electrical fields, and magnetism. And you tonight are drifting within another map, a map of memory, emotion, and unnamed dreams. Perhaps when you allow yourself to listen as sharks listen to the ocean, you will realize that this world, both outer and inner, has never truly been silent. It has simply been waiting for you to read it with greater stillness and gentleness. In that listening, fear gradually dissolves. In its place arises a feeling of connection with the body, with the mind, with the larger current that sustains you. And like a shark in the ancient sea, you are no longer alone in the dark. You are surrounded by the signals of life, and you are sensitive enough to feel them. If we continue reflecting on the sensory world of sharks, we realize that their excellence does not lie in a single sense, but in the harmonious integration of all of them. Smell, hearing, vibration detection, electrical fields, magnetic fields, all interwoven into a symphony of perception. No signal exists independently. No information is ignored. For sharks, the ocean is a space that is always speaking, and they do not need to strain to listen. They are simply present enough to receive. From Jung's perspective, human beings possess a similarly complex perceptual system, though much of it operates unconsciously. Intuition, dreams, premonitions are not mystical anomalies, but the mind's way of synthesizing countless small signals into holistic understanding. Perhaps you have walked into a room and immediately felt that something was not right, though no one had spoken. Perhaps you have thought of someone and then received a message from them moments later. These experiences resemble a shark's ability to sense electrical fields, very small signals, yet sufficient to shape awareness. The challenge is that modern humans often live too much at the surface level of consciousness. We trust what can be measured, seen, clearly heard. Yet the ocean of the psyche is far vaster. It contains undercurrents, childhood memories, ancestral fears, behavioral patterns transmitted across generations. Jung called this the collective unconscious, a deep layer where symbols and primordial instincts remain alive. Just as sharks read the ocean through invisible signals, we too can learn to read ourselves through the symbols that appear in dreams, through recurring emotions, through automatic reactions we have never questioned. The ocean is never silent, neither is the unconscious. When you lie down at night, the outer world may grow quieter, but within you another world begins to speak. Images arise, memories drift by, emotions surface and settle again. This is not chaos, it is your inner sensory system at work. Sharks do not fear the darkness of the ocean, because within that darkness they still see, they still hear, they still feel. And perhaps what makes humans fear darkness is not that darkness is truly dangerous, but that we have not yet learned how to perceive within it. If we trust more deeply in our capacity for profound perception, we will panic less before what is unclear. We will understand that not every signal needs immediate explanation. Some simply need to be acknowledged and allowed to exist. Just as sharks do not analyze every vibration, they respond naturally in rhythm with their environment. Imagine yourself drifting in a warm ocean. No need to swim urgently, no need to determine direction immediately. Simply feel the water supporting you. Each heartbeat is a signal. Each breath is a small movement within your inner map. You are not lost. You are simply learning to read your own map. Just as sharks use the Earth's magnetic field to navigate long journeys, you too possess an inner magnetic field. Your values, your dreams, your quiet aspirations. Even when you feel disoriented, those deep signals still exist, silently guiding you. And when you allow yourself to slow down, when you stop trying to make everything loud or instantly clear, you begin to hear your own low frequencies, simple desires, the need for rest, the longing to be understood. Tonight, try doing what sharks have done for millions of years. Trust your sensory system. Trust the steady beat of your heart. Trust the gentle rhythm of your breathing. Trust the body and mind's capacity for self-regulation. The world is never completely silent, but you do not need to silence it in order to feel peace. You only need to learn how to listen without fear. And as you drift into sleep, the ocean within you continues to whisper. Not threatening, not chaotic. Simply the signals of life flowing through you like the ancient currents that once moved around the bodies of the first sharks. You are surrounded by an invisible map of memory, emotion, and intuition. And like a shark in the deep ocean, you are sensitive enough to navigate it. Let darkness become a space of perception. Let stillness become a doorway to understanding. And let your mind, like the ocean, continue its gentle movement, never truly silent, yet always rhythmic enough to carry you into deep sleep. Part 5: Hunting Strategies. Intelligent mechanics, beyond sheer strength. When we hear the words hunting, the mind often conjures images of aggression, speed, blood, and the decisive bite. But if we slow down, if we look more deeply into the life of sharks, we discover that their hunting strategies are not merely about strength. They are about refined mechanics, risk management, and quiet calculation between survival and self-preservation. Under the contemplative gaze of Carl Gustav Jung, every instinctual behavior contains a profound intelligence. Instinct is not blind. It is ancient wisdom distilled through millions of years of experimentation. In the world of sharks, that wisdom is revealed in how they hunt. Some shark species must swim continuously to breathe. Water must flow across their gills to provide oxygen, and thus movement becomes a condition of life, not because they are restless, but because their physiology requires it. This evokes those people who need constant activity to feel alive. For them, movement is not escape, it is existence. Yet other species can lie still on the seabed, pumping water over their gills and resting. They do not need constant motion to survive. Two different strategies, both effective within their respective environments. Are humans not similar? Some truly breathe only when engaged in action, when projects follow projects. Others require long pauses, quiet spaces to regenerate energy. No strategy is inherently superior. What matters is understanding one's own structure. When a shark lunges to bite prey, it possesses a delicate protective mechanism. Many species can roll their eyes back or draw a protective membrane across them to prevent injury. In the most dangerous moment, the moment of attack, they still think of protecting their vision. Strength does not exclude caution. This is a beautiful image of risk management. In life, we may need to act decisively, but decisiveness does not mean recklessness. We can still cover our eyes when necessary, safeguarding our clarity against inevitable collisions. Some sharks possess astonishing jaw mechanisms. The jaws can lock with powerful force or even project forward like a biological spring, as in the goblin shark. That projection is not random impulse. It is the result of precise mechanics, calculation of distance and timing. Such precision reminds us that effectiveness comes not from constant attack, but from waiting for the right moment. Jung suggested that psychological maturity requires the capacity to endure tension between opposites, action and waiting. Sharks do not waste energy on futile bites. They wait, observe, then act when conditions ripen. Other species choose entirely different strategies. The thresher shark uses its long tail like a whip, striking schools of fish to stun them before turning back to feed. It does not bite directly at first. It creates advantage before approaching. Here lies a subtle lesson. Sometimes the solution is not direct confrontation, but restructuring the situation. Instead of charging into conflict, we can adjust the environment, reduce the resistance of the challenge, and then proceed. Some species pin stingrays to the sand, with their snouts neutralizing the venomous tail before eating. Others, like the saw shark, use their long, saw-like snouts with serrated teeth to sweep sideways through prey, disorienting them. Each strategy demonstrates that there is no single path to achieving a goal. Nature does not glorify one fixed model. It encourages diversity and adaptation. And then there is a detail that surprises many. Some sharks can invert their stomachs to clean them, then swallow them back into place. Strange as it sounds, this is a maintenance mechanism. When foreign objects or parasites appear, they do not allow prolonged damage. They actively remove it. In psychological life, we too require such cleansing. Accumulated emotions, toxic thoughts, painful memories. If we never allow them to be brought outside, they may silently harm us. Jung called this confronting the shadow, the darker aspects we often avoid. Only when we dare to face and cleanse can we become truly healthy. When we observe sharks' hunting strategies as a whole, we see that they are not blind aggression. They are precise mechanics. Protection before attack, waiting for the right time, using tools appropriate to circumstance, knowing when to act and when to rest. The ocean does not forgive large mistakes. Therefore, risk management becomes instinct. And in human life, the same is true. We cannot eliminate all danger, but we can learn to calculate to protect what is essential and to avoid wasting energy. Tonight, as you lie down and hear these words, perhaps you will reflect on your own hunts, not for prey, but for goals, dreams, or growth. You may ask yourself, am I charging forward with pure force or adjusting my strategy more intelligently? Like sharks, you can choose the approach suited to your structure. You can act when necessary, rest when needed. You can protect your eyes, your clarity, before facing challenge. You can cleanse what no longer serves you. Hunting ultimately is not a story of cruelty. It is a story of balance between engagement and self-preservation. And when seen in that light, we no longer perceive mere ferocity. We see ancient intelligence at work, quiet, precise, efficient. In the darkness of the ocean, every movement carries meaning. In the darkness of this night, every breath of yours does as well. You do not need to be strong at all times. You only need to be wise enough to know when to advance, when to pause. And like a shark in the deep ocean, you may trust the deep instinctual structure within you. A structure designed not only to fight, but to survive, adapt, and continue the journey steadily, cautiously, consciously. As we continue reflecting on sharks' hunting strategies, we realize that the essence lies not in the final bite, but in the entire preparation preceding it. Observation, positioning, risk assessment, energy calculation. Only when conditions are favorable does action occur. This is a wisdom of patience. From Jung's perspective, human beings often struggle between two forces, instinct pushing immediate action, and consciousness urging deliberation. Maturity does not mean eliminating instinct, but harmonizing it with awareness. Sharks do not suppress their hunting instinct. They refine it through protective mechanisms and suitable strategy. Consider again the eye-rolling defense. At the decisive moment, they still protect vision, their primary orientation organ. It resembles entering an argument while maintaining composure, not allowing anger to blind your broader perspective. True strength does not lie in winning every confrontation. It lies in not injuring yourself in the process. The long tail of the thresher shark striking a school of fish is not merely an attack. It minimizes risk. Instead of plunging into chaotic motion, it creates distance, disorients prey first. This is the art of creating advantage far wiser than direct collision. In psychological life, we too may need to strike with the tail, create space before reacting. Instead of replying instantly to provocation, we step back, breathe, let emotion settle. That pause is the soul's risk management strategy. The forward-projecting jaws of the goblin shark demonstrate seizing opportunity when it appears. Yet remember, they do not project constantly. The mechanism activates only when prey is correctly positioned, a lesson in conserving energy. Many of us expend energy on unnecessary projections, worrying about what has not occurred, arguing over what cannot change. Sharks offer a quiet teaching. Not every stimulus requires response. Only when conditions ripen does action become effective. And the act of averting the stomach to cleanse, though harsh in image, powerfully symbolizes self-maintenance. In Jungian psychology, confronting the shadow, the parts we prefer not to see, is essential to wholeness. If we retain emotional residue indefinitely, it accumulates silently. Sharks do not wait until the body weakens. They cleanse proactively. We can do the same with the mind. Write what still burdens you. Forgive an old memory. Accept a trait you once denied. Hunting, when examined closely, is a sequence of balanced movements between approach and defense, between engagement and preservation, between instinct and calculation. When we understand this, the shark ceases to symbolize mere ferocity. It becomes a symbol of instinctual intelligence precisely regulated. Tonight, as your body gradually relaxes, consider your own strategies. Are you exhausting yourself in unnecessary pursuits? Are you charging into every challenge without protecting your vision? Or can you slow down, observe, and act when timing is truly right? Just as the ocean is never entirely calm, life is never without challenge. But you need not be aggressive to survive within it. You can refine your strategy. You can protect your vulnerable parts. You can use energy more wisely. And when you allow yourself to rest, you are practicing another intelligent strategy regeneration before the next journey. Sharks do not hunt to prove strength. They hunt to continue life. So do you. Your efforts are not to prove something to the world, but to nourish your own path. And if you know how to manage risk, when to advance and when to retreat, you will not need to strain excessively. Let tonight be a safe retreat. Let sleep be the way you cover your eyes from temporary collisions. Let breath be the steady movement that sustains you. In the deep ocean, sharks move through precise mechanics and ancient calm. In the gentle darkness of your room, you too are supported by a similar deep intelligence, the wisdom of a body that knows when to rest, when to recover. And in that stillness, you may trust that you need not be strong at every moment. You only need to be conscious enough to choose the right strategy for each moment. Part 6. Unexpected diversity. Not all sharks are the rest. Same. When we close our eyes and think of shark, the mind often paints a single image. A grey silhouette gliding through water. A fin cutting the surface, sharp teeth gleaming. Yet the truth is gentler. Shark is not one fixed form. It is an entire universe of different life strategies, silent adaptations, diverse answers that life has written over millions of years of evolution. And if we look more deeply, we see within that diversity a mirror of the human soul, what Carl Gustav Jung once described as the journey toward wholeness. Some shark species glow in the deep darkness of the ocean. Where sunlight never reaches their bodies, generate a faint luminosity like submerged stars. That light is not ostentatious. It is not brilliant to impress. It is just enough to communicate, to camouflage, to survive. In the deepest darkness, they do not wait for external light, they become light. Is humanity not similar? There are phases when we enter our own deep waters, loss, crisis, doubt. Then no one can fully illuminate the way for us. Jung said that we do not become conscious by imagining light, but by making the darkness conscious. Those bioluminescent sharks remind us that in the deepest shadows of the psyche, there exists a mechanism of self-illumination, intuition, survival instinct, quiet faith in resilience. Then we encounter gentle giants like the whale shark or the basking shark. They are among the largest fish in the ocean, yet they do not hunt with sharp teeth. They open wide mouths, swim slowly, and filter plankton, tiny, nearly invisible organisms. Immense size does not equal aggression. Power does not always accompany attack. This may be a profound lesson for a tired mind. We often confuse magnitude with ferocity, power with domination. Yet in nature, some immense beings survive through calmness. They need not prove anything. They do not rush into bloody hunts to assert position. Their presence is enough. In Jung's analytical psychology, maturity arises when one is no longer obsessed with displaying the ego, when we need not roar to be seen nor struggle to validate worth. These giant filter-feeding sharks teach that greatness may lie in the gentle absorption of small things, in nourishing oneself through simplicity. But not all sharks are enormous. Some are so small they fit in the palm of a hand, like the dwarf lantern shark. In the vast ocean, they are nearly invisible. Yet they exist, find their place, continue their life cycle. In human society, we often compare the size of success, who is more famous, wealthier, more recognized. But nature does not operate by that scale. There is room for giants and for tiny beings alike. Jung believed each individual carries a unique archetypal pattern within the collective unconscious, no one redundant, no one meaningless. If you have ever felt too small in this vast world, remember that hand-sized shark. Smallness does not exclude you from the web of life. Sometimes the least noticed beings possess the most delicate strategies for survival. Then we encounter an almost mythical presence, the Greenland shark. They may live for hundreds of years, swimming slowly through the cold Arctic waters, carrying centuries within their rhythm. When a Greenland shark is born, human empires may not yet exist. While it continues to swim, generations pass. There is something comforting in imagining a being that lives so slowly. In an age measured by speed of success, response, achievement, a shark that lives for centuries reminds us that endurance may matter more than haste. Not every life strategy requires rapid movement. Some journeys are designed to be long. Elsewhere, we find the Port Jackson shark with flattened teeth, capable of crushing hard shells. They do not possess razor teeth for tearing flesh. Their structure is adapted to armored prey. Their bodies are answers to chosen environments. This is the essence of diversity. Each structure serves a strategy. There is no single correct design for all. In Jungian psychology, each person undergoes individuation, becoming oneself. Comparing your structure to another's leads only to confusion. You do not need sharp teeth if your path does not demand them. You do not need speed if your environment requires endurance. And then there are adaptable nomads like the bull shark or the leopard shark, species able to inhabit estuaries, brackish water, even fresh water. They adjust physiologically to changing salinity. They are not confined to one fixed environment. Human life also contains different waters: family, work, love, solitude. The ability to move among psychological environments without losing one's core is profound. Jung described this as flexibility between social masks and the authentic self. Roles may change, the inner axis remains. When we view the whole panorama, we understand that shark is not a single identity. It is a constellation of strategies, glowing in darkness, giant yet gentle, small yet persistent, living slowly for centuries, crushing hard shells, adapting between fresh and salt water. And so it is with human. You need not resemble anyone else to be whole. You may be a small light in darkness, a gentle giant, a slow soul in a hurried world, one who changes environments while keeping the soul intact. As night falls and you prepare for sleep, let this thought spread softly. You are not required to live by one single strategy. Life is not a rigid mold. It is a vast ocean of possibilities. In that ocean, sharks do not compete to become a standard version. They simply become the version most suited to their environment. And perhaps the most comforting whisper nature offers before sleep is this: you do not need to become someone else. You only need to discover the life strategy aligned with your own soul. When you accept that diversity in the ocean and within yourself, you move closer to the wholeness. Jung described the integration of opposites, possibilities, forms of existence within you. In the quiet of night, let the ocean of diverse sharks lull you to sleep, not with fear, but with understanding that the world is vast enough to hold every way of living. And you, with all your differences, are an indispensable part of that picture. As we continue reflecting on shark diversity, we realize that nature never chose uniformity. The ocean did not create one perfect template and replicate it endlessly. Instead, it experiments, adjusts, adapts. Each shark species is a different answer to the same question: how does one live? And that question quietly echoes within each of us. Under Jung's vision, every human carries an individuation process, becoming oneself, not a copy of another. Yet, comparison often obstructs this path. We look at others and think we are not fast enough, strong enough, radiant enough. But if the ocean can contain both luminous beings and shadow dwellers, gentle giants and fragile small creatures, why should human society honor only a few fixed models of success? Perhaps because we forget that diversity is not deviation. It is the core design of life. Consider again species able to move between salt and fresh water. That physiological flexibility is more than biology. It symbolizes inner transformation. In psychological life, there are phases when we must leave familiar waters, change careers, end relationships, adopt new roles. If rigid, we fracture. If adaptable, we adjust without losing essence. Jung said, "A healthy ego is not one that never changes, but one flexible enough to face adversity without dissolving." Sharks do not resist environment, they recalibrate to it. And when we contemplate those who live for centuries, another truth emerges. Not all value is measured by intensity. Some existences are quiet yet enduring. In modern rhythms, we are pulled toward speed, believing rapid achievement equals meaning. Yet the cold, deep waters where the Greenland shark swims across centuries remind us sometimes slow living is optimal survival. If you feel slower than others, ask yourself, might you simply be following a different rhythm, a longer arc, a deeper cycle? Shark diversity offers one more gentle insight. There is no single way to be strong. Strength may glow in darkness. Strength may nourish itself gently. Strength may crush challenge with unique structure. Strength may endure quietly for centuries. When we accept that shark is a world, not a template, we begin accepting that human is a wide spectrum of possibility. Perhaps before sleep, what we need is not further self-improvement. Perhaps what we need is permission. Permission to differ, to grow according to our own structure, to be imperfect by someone else's measure. In the vast ocean, no shark seeks permission to exist as it does. It simply lives according to the strategy evolution shaped. And so do you. You need not become the loudest, fastest, most visible version. You need only become the most authentic version aligned with your inner structure. Tonight, as breath slows and the body sinks into stillness, imagine a diverse ocean surrounding you. There is faint light in the depths, a massive silhouette drifting calmly, a tiny being persistently swimming, a creature living centuries without haste. And somewhere in that panorama there is a place reserved for you, not for imitation, but for being yourself with your unique strategy, your rhythm and the inner light only you can kindle. Part 7. Migration, Orientation, and the Invisible Map. After we have journeyed through the surprising diversity of the shark world, where each species carries its own distinct survival strategy, we begin to realize that such differences do not exist in chaos. Beneath these varied forms lies something deeper, the capacity for orientation. Not merely orientation in physical space, but orientation within the vast current of life itself. And from here, we step into another layer of meaning, the story of migration, of invisible maps of silent memory, guiding the way across the immense ocean. Many shark species migrate thousands of kilometers with the seasons. They leave familiar waters, swimming across distances that, if measured by human perception, might seem unimaginable. The ocean has no signposts, no paved roads, no arrows pointing the way, and yet they arrive where they need to be. What guides them? Research suggests that sharks can sense the Earth's magnetic field like a natural compass. That magnetic field is invisible, without color, scent, or sound. Yet it is present everywhere, like a silent network enveloping the planet. Sharks do not see it the way we see light, but they sense it and trust it. Perhaps within human psychological life, there also exists such a magnetic field, an invisible structure orienting us amid countless choices. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That sentence is not merely a warning but an invitation. Within us flow unconscious currents, memories, archetypes, deep longings quietly shaping our path. If we fail to recognize them, we may believe we are simply drifting. But when we begin to listen, we realize we have never been entirely without direction. Sharks do not migrate blindly. They do not swim according to momentary impulse alone. Some species return to the same coral reefs, patrolling familiar routes, as though the ocean has been drawn into invisible pathways within their memory. The vast sea is not a chaotic void. To them, it is a living map of known coordinates. Humans carry such maps within as well. There are places we have not visited for years, yet when we return we recognize the scent, the light, the sound as if we had never left. There are periods in life when we believe we are starting over, when in truth we are merely returning to a point once marked on our inner map. Jung called this journey individuation a spiral movement, rather than a straight line where we revisit old themes at deeper levels of awareness. He wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "In each of us there is another whom we do not know. The invisible map lies not only out there in the world but within the unexplored depths of the soul." More fascinating still, sharks can learn from experience and adjust their strategies. They do not repeat behaviors mechanically. If the environment changes, if prey patterns shift, they adapt. Memory does not simply guide them back to a location. It helps them update their survival strategy. Here, the image of the blind predator dissolves completely. In its place stands a being capable of remembering, evaluating, and adjusting. In human life, maturity is much the same, not erasing the past, but learning from it. Not denying mistakes, but integrating them into a new map. Some people repeat the same relational patterns, the same emotional reactions, as though swimming in circles within their own private ocean. Jung warned, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Each moment of friction may mark a coordinate on the unconscious map that needs revisiting. If we dare to pause and observe, we begin to adjust our direction." Some shark species even demonstrate social tendencies, choosing familiar companions, swimming alongside certain individuals rather than randomly. This gently dismantles another stereotype that sharks are entirely solitary beings. Even in the vast ocean, there is recognition and selective connection. Human beings, no matter how fiercely independent they long to be, are creatures of connection. Yet connection is not merely physical presence. It is the synchronization of rhythms, the familiarity of energy, the quiet safety of swimming beside another soul. Sometimes someone enters our life, and we feel as though we have known them for years. Perhaps our invisible maps share intersecting coordinates. When we step back and look at the whole, we begin to understand that migration is not merely geographical movement. It is a symbol of psychological journey. Each season of life may ask us to leave an old water behind and swim toward a new one, more suited to our present growth. Yet that departure is not aimless drifting. It is guided by deeper structures than we often realize. Perhaps you are standing at a crossroads. Perhaps you feel yourself leaving something familiar. In such moments, fear arises easily. But remember the shark swimming thousands of kilometers through dark waters. It does not see the entire journey at once. It simply senses direction and continues swimming. Perhaps this too is how we should live. We do not need to know every detail of the future. We do not need a paper map with every stop marked. We need only trust that within us there is a magnetic field quietly guiding the way. When you listen to your intuition, when you are honest with your feelings, when you dare to face the unconscious rather than flee from it, you activate that inner compass. Tonight, as you lie down and allow your breath to slow, imagine yourself floating in a vast ocean that is not chaotic. Beneath the surface are steady currents, invisible pathways carved over time, wordless memories guiding you toward where you belong. You are not a blind predator in the waters of life. You are a being with memory, with experience, with the capacity to adjust strategy, and above all, with an invisible map not to force you into rigid destiny, but to remind you that your journey has meaning. Like a shark, returning to a familiar reef after a long migration, you too will find the place you are meant to be. Not because you see the entire path, but because you trust the quiet direction vibrating within. Let that thought gently carry you toward sleep, like a peaceful migration of the soul beneath a sky filled with invisible magnetic lines, softly lighting the way. Part 8. Reproduction and Rhythm. After long migrations, across dark oceans, after invisible maps sensed through magnetism and memory, we gradually recognize that all movement ultimately points towards something more fundamental. the continuation of life. Migration is not only about finding food or avoiding cold seasons. Orientation is not merely proof of survival skill. Beneath all strategies pulses the steady rhythm of reproduction and life cycles, slow, enduring, never ceasing. And here we enter a gentler reflection, not of pursuit, but of continuity. In the shark world, reproduction does not follow a single pattern. Some species lay eggs, spiral leathery cases, often poetically called mermaids' purses. These small pouches anchor themselves to coral reefs or the ocean floor, quietly protecting a life forming within. There is no haste, no sound, only a silent process where life is nurtured in darkness. That image resembles ideas, dreams, and new versions of ourselves which sometimes begin just as quietly. No one sees them at first. No one knows precisely when they will emerge into visible form. But inside the invisible pouch of the soul, something is growing. Conversely, some shark species give birth to live young. Life is not placed within a separate shell, but nourished inside the mother's body until strong enough to enter the ocean. Two strategies, egg-laying and live-bearing, neither right nor wrong, only suited to environment and circumstance. This reflects a profound truth in Jungian psychology. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Becoming oneself is the privilege of a lifetime." Yet this journey unfolds at different speeds for each individual. Some hatch early, displaying potential from youth. Others require long incubation in darkness, shaped by experience and trial. Consider the Greenland shark. It matures with almost unimaginable slowness, possibly taking centuries to reach reproductive maturity. In a world where humans measure success by speed, how many years to reach a position? How many months to achieve a goal? The existence of a being that matures across generations gently reminds us that not all value is measured in short spans of time. Some souls require long seasons to take shape. Some people understand themselves only in midlife or later. This is not failure. It is simply a different biological rhythm. Jung also said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Slow maturation sometimes means deep experience. Like the Greenland shark swimming through icy waters, the process may feel solitary, but it is steady and resilient. Sharks can also endure weeks without food thanks to oil-rich livers storing energy. They do not need to hunt daily. They store, wait, and draw upon internal resources when necessary. This is more than biology. It is a symbol of restraint. In human life, we often expend energy constantly, emotions, thoughts, worries. We react to every stimulus enter, every debate attempt to solve everything at once. But perhaps like sharks, we can learn to store and use energy wisely. Not every hunger must be immediately satisfied. Not every emptiness must be hastily filled. There are periods in life when we feel hungry for meaning, recognition, love. But if we have built a psychological liver rich in inner strength, self-respect, self-understanding, the ability to be alone, we can move through temporary scarcity without panic. Reproduction and rhythm in sharks reveal something essential. Speed is not the sole measure of life. There are fast rhythms and slow rhythms. External incubation and internal nourishment, early maturity and late maturity, all expressions of adaptive intelligence. If you feel slower than others, perhaps you are simply living according to a different biological rhythm, a longer cycle, a deeper unfolding. Not every seed sprouts at the same time. Not every being matures at the same age. Not every soul awakens on the same schedule. In the vast ocean, no shark is judged for maturing slowly. It simply lives according to its structure. Tonight, as you place your hand upon your chest and feel your steady heartbeat, remember that it too is a compass, a rhythm uniquely yours. It need not be faster, nor slower, only authentic. Allow yourself to rest when needed, to store energy when needed, to grow in silence if that is your natural way. Like a shark in the deep ocean, you are living according to a strategy more intricate than you may realize. Whatever your pace, the journey is unfolding beat by beat in its own rightful way. Part 9. Sharks and Humans. The distance between fear, truth. When we hear the word shark, tension often arises immediately. The image that appears is not of migration or quiet nurturing, but of sharp teeth lunging forward. Yet reality is gentler. Most shark species are small, live in deep or offshore waters, and pose no danger to humans. Rare bites typically occur in poor visibility when a shark may mistake shape and movement for natural prey. A shimmering motion in sunlight, a dark silhouette on the surface, and instinct briefly activates. Most such incidents are not deliberate attacks, but momentary confusion. Yet media and film have woven a different story. Sharks have been magnified into symbols of senseless brutality. Fear, amplified by dramatic music, dark imagery, repeated sensational narratives. Gradually, in the collective unconscious, sharks ceased to be diverse marine animals and became archetypes of threat. Jung described the shadow, the instinctive, aggressive, primitive aspects we prefer not to acknowledge. Sharks with teeth and predatory instinct easily become screens for projection. Rather than confront aggression or impulsiveness within ourselves, we externalize it and call it monster. But in reality, sharks spend most of their time swimming, searching for fish, migrating, resting. The ocean is not a perpetual battlefield. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." When we do not recognize projection, we believe fear comes entirely from outside. But when we replace panic with understanding, the curtain lifts. Understanding does not erase all risk. Sharks remain predators. The ocean remains wild. But knowledge restores proportion. Perhaps the gentlest lesson here is this: fear is often larger than truth, and truth seen calmly is less dramatic than imagined. As you drift towards sleep, think of the sharks in your own life, the conversations, decisions, unknowns you may have magnified in imagination. Reality is often softer. Understanding replaces panic with respect. Respect replaces tension with peace. Let that peace settle over you now. Let knowledge cool the heat of fear. Let balance return, and allow sleep to arrive softly, like a quiet wave touching shore. Part 10. Ecological Role. The Keepers of Balance. In marine ecosystems, sharks are not merely apex predators, they are regulators. When a shark hunts the weak or sick, it refines the genetic strength of prey populations. What appears harsh is, in truth, a subtle mechanism maintaining vitality. If sharks decline, mid-level predators may surge, depleting lower species, destabilizing reefs and seagrass beds. One link shifts, the entire structure trembles. Jung wrote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. Beneath the seeming disorder of waves lies intricate structure. Sharks are part of that secret order." Ecologists speak of a landscape of fear, where the mere presence of predators shapes prey behavior. Sea turtles sensing sharks do not overgraze one patch of seagrass. Movement distributes pressure. Ecosystems remain balanced. In human life, boundaries serve similar function. Not all limits are oppressive. Some protect us from excess. Some fears keep us from self-destruction. When sharks vanish, imbalance begins quietly, like a crack in a foundation. In personal life, imbalance also begins, subtly a boundary, neglected a strength suppressed. Jung wrote, "The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong." Balance is not eliminating one pole, but allowing healthy oscillation. Perhaps the shark within the decisive force that sets limits is not an enemy, but a guardian. Calm-up sharks are not chaos in the ocean. They are dynamic stability. Not freezing life in place, but preventing collapse. Tonight, imagine the deep sea once more. Shadows glide silently, not as threats, but as pillars holding equilibrium. Within you two, quiet strengths uphold balance. Firm boundaries protect peace. Difficult decisions once made preserved your path. Balance is not absence of tension, it is tension held in rightful place. Let that understanding settle like calm water at night. No need to analyze further, no need to prove anything. In nature, as in the soul, the predators are sometimes the keepers of order. And as that truth softens fear into respect, and respect into peace, let the ocean close gently in your imagination, deep, vast, balanced, and let yourself drift into sleep within it. Part 11. The landscape of fear. When presence alone reshapes an ecosystem. If in the previous section, we saw sharks as the silent structural supports of the ocean pillars that keep the web of life from tilting out of balance, then here, our reflection becomes even more subtle. For there is a truth deeper than the act of predation. Sometimes mere presence is enough to transform an entire ecosystem. No bite is required. No blood needs to flow. A single shadow gliding beneath the surface, and the whole landscape begins to adjust. Ecologists call this the landscape of fear. When sharks appear in a region, fish and rays no longer forage in open waters for long. They alter their feeding times. They stay closer to shelter. They move with greater caution. Behavior changes, and with it the algae, the seagrass, the distribution of populations. A quiet chain reaction spreads, not because of excessive death, but because of heightened awareness of risk. The ocean, therefore, is shaped not only by those who are eaten, but by those who feel they could be eaten. This opens a gentle yet profound doorway into the human psyche. In our inner lives, how many of our actions arise from what has actually happened, and how many from what we believe could happen? How many decisions are made not because of reality itself, but because of the presence of possibility, Carl? Gustav Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Fear, when unrecognized, functions like an invisible shark in the soul. It does not need to attack directly. Its existence in the shadows is enough to alter our course. Just as fish avoid open waters, we avoid spaces that make us vulnerable. We may avoid a conversation for fear of rejection. We may change our feeding hours, working longer, staying busier, to avoid facing an unresolved emotion. We may cling to familiar shelters even when we know growth lies elsewhere. The presence of risk, even unrealized, can shape the entire landscape of a life. And yet, this is not an invitation to condemn fear. In nature, the landscape of fear is not a flaw. It is an adaptive mechanism. Without sensing risk, fish could be swiftly erased. Fear, in appropriate measure, keeps ecosystems flexible and alive. Jung also said there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Recognizing fear is a gentle form of pain because it asks us to admit we are not fully in control. But in that recognition, fear transforms from an invisible shark into a force we can observe. In the ocean, sharks are like a mobile weather system. Their movement alters behavioral pressure around them. When they patrol a reef, the entire community adjusts as if the wind has shifted. No command is issued, no alarm sounds, only a change in rhythm. Within us, similar weather systems exist. Old memories, inherited beliefs, unhealed experiences move through the psyche like undercurrents. They are not always loud, yet they influence how we distribute energy, how we choose companions, how we enter or withdraw from spaces. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order, Jung wrote. The landscape of fear is not evidence of chaos, but of a subtle survival order. There is, however, one difference between the ocean and the human being. Fish cannot reflect upon their fear. They simply react. We, by contrast, can pause and ask, is this fear still relevant? Is this risk truly present, or merely a shadow of the past? In asking, we begin to reshape our own landscape. Some fears once helped us survive a particular season of life, but when circumstances change, they may continue to dominate unnecessarily. If sharks leave a region, yet other species behave as though they remain, the ecosystem limits its own abundance. Tonight, as you listen before sleep, imagine a vast ocean. In the distance, the shadow of a shark glides by. There is no chase, no chaos, only presence. Ask yourself in the ocean of your mind which presences quietly shape your behavior. An old remark, a past failure, a fear of judgment. Then very gently, without force, imagine shining a soft beam of light into those waters. Not to banish the darkness entirely, but to see its outline. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. When darkness becomes conscious, it no longer governs us as invisible fate. It becomes part of the inner ecosystem, with a role and with limits. Sharks, like mobile weather systems, remind us that power does not always lie in direct action. Sometimes power lies in influence. And in life, your presence, your calm, your integrity, your steadiness can reshape the landscapes of others without proclamation. For now, let the ocean settle. Let the currents soften. Let the shadow drift farther away in imagination. And as sleep approaches, carry a gentle awareness. Not all change comes from collision. Some change comes from presence. When we become conscious of our inner weather systems, we no longer live as prey to fear, but as active participants in a broader landscape. Your sleep tonight may become a calm sea, not because risk has vanished, but because you have seen its shape. If the landscape of fear shapes the ocean through silent presence, perhaps we too live among such landscapes, where things that never happened still influence our smallest choices. A past rejection may make us cautious before a new opportunity. A painful memory may cause distance even when the heart longs to draw near. An old failure may shrink us before challenge, not because danger stands clearly before us, but because the mind remembers its possibility. Jung reminded us, the greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Fear is similar. We cannot erase all risk, but we can grow large enough not to be unconsciously ruled by it. In nature, if sharks disappeared entirely, the landscape of fear would vanish and imbalance might follow. Fear at the right level belongs to life. The task is not elimination, but understanding its scope. The ocean does not panic at a shark's presence. It adjusts. No dramatization, no tragedy, only adaptation. Perhaps this is the gentlest lesson before sleep. Instead of fighting fear or surrendering to it, we adjust, like fish changing direction, like turtles shifting grazing grounds. Not out of despair, but wisdom. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart, Jung wrote. When we look directly at our inner sharks, memories, anxieties, premonitions, we begin to distinguish real risk from past shadow. And in that distinction, freedom appears. Tonight, imagine the vast ocean sinking into gentle darkness. A fin passes in the distance. No sound, no conflict, only presence. You too live among fields of influence, but you are not powerless. You can choose your response. Not every risk demands panic. Not every darkness is danger. Not every fear is an enemy. Some fears simply try to keep you awake to life. Some limits protect what is fragile within you. When understood, the landscape of fear ceases to be a prison. It becomes a map showing where caution is wise and where expansion is possible. For tonight, let that map close. Let the ocean quiet. Let the shadows soften into the night. When consciousness illuminates darkness, you are no longer its prey. You become a waking part of the larger landscape. And in that gentle awakening, sleep comes deep as the ocean peaceful as dawn's surface. Part 12. The Silent Cleaners. If, before we explored the landscape of fear, where presence alone reshapes behavior, now we descend deeper into waters, where light rarely reaches. Here, sharks no longer appear as powerful patrols, but as silent cleaners of the sea, not dramatic, not celebrated, yet essential. In popular imagination, sharks are hunters, but ecology shows that many species also consume carrion. When a whale dies and sinks, it becomes a whale fall, a sunken feast sustaining hundreds of species for years. Before the carcass reaches the seafloor, sharks and large fish tear away tissue, opening access for smaller organisms. As it descends, other communities continue the work. A silent transfer unfolds from surface to depth, from light to darkness. Here, sharks symbolize not destruction, but recycling. They help decompose death so life may continue. They limit disease by consuming decay before bacteria proliferate uncontrollably. They are bridges between ending and beginning. Jung wrote, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos in all disorder, a secret order." A whale's death may seem chaotic, yet within the ecosystem's deeper structure, it is cyclical order. Humans fear endings, loss, dissolution, closure, yet nothing truly vanishes. Energy redistributes. The old decomposes so the new may grow. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. In psychological life, wounds and symbolic deaths may sink into the unconscious. Denied, they can fester. Faced, they can be digested like sharks digesting decay, transforming pain into wisdom. The ocean does not recoil from death. It mobilizes the whole network to transform it. No judgment, no shame. Perhaps we too can view failed dreams, closed relationships, former selves not as waste but as latent nourishment. Not to be buried but integrated. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Sharks swim towards sinking matter. They do not avoid it, and thus the cycle continues. Tonight, imagine a great whale descending slowly. No tragedy, only transition. Shadows gather, then deeper creatures continue the work. A wordless cycle in darkness. Ask gently what in your life is sinking, what has ended. Can you trust that at some depth something new is being nourished? The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, Jung said. To become, we must not only accumulate but also decompose. Not only build, but release. Sharks remind us letting go is not destruction. It is redistribution of energy, transformation. You do not need to resolve everything before sleep. Trust that, like the ocean, your soul knows how to recycle endings into foundations for another dawn. Sleep then becomes deep and nourishing. No applause reaches the ocean floor. No audience watches silent cleaners. Yet transformation occurs. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Inner cleaning happens, unseen, quiet forgiveness. Midnight decisions to release tears no one witnesses. The wound is the place where the light enters you. A wound made conscious becomes nourishment. The ocean does not waste anything. Perhaps neither does the soul. Let darkness soften. Let silent cleaners work. Rest. Sleep is not escape. It is pause, so invisible cycles may continue. Deep as the seabed, quiet as night water. Part 13. The Deep Sea, where pressure crushes beyond. Silent cleaners lies the deep sea where pressure crushes. Metal sunlight never arrives, and life persists with quiet insistence. Sharks inhabit even this realm. They move slowly, conserving energy. Large, lipid-rich livers provide buoyancy. They do not chase endlessly. They wait for rare opportunity, drifting squid, weakened fish, marine snow falling from above. Their existence mirrors human deep-sea seasons, times of darkness, pressure, scarcity. Responsibility and expectation may feel crushing. Yet as Jung wrote, in all chaos, there is a cosmos. Deep-sea darkness hides order. Perhaps when life slows, it is conserving energy, preparing restructuring. Deep-sea sharks do not panic at scarcity. They adapt to it. Modern humans often fear slowness. Yet perhaps some seasons are meant for conservation. At depth, excess is stripped away. Only core structure survives pressure. So too, high-pressure life phases crush illusions and inflated ego, revealing essential self. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Pressure refines or breaks. Adaptation breeds resilience. Tonight, imagine descending. Light fades. pressure rises. A deep-sea shark glides steady adapted. If you are in a deep-sea season, it is not failure. It may be restructuring. Patience becomes your buoyancy. Darkness is not always threat. Sometimes it is rest. And deeper still, bioluminescence. Creatures glow from within, not to perform but to survive and connect. When external light disappears, inner light emerges. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Deep-sea awakening is inward. Pressure shapes diamonds. It shapes you. You need not shine brilliantly at all times. You need only endure, adapt, trust your rhythm. Sleep becomes a gentle dive inward. At dawn you may rise slower, stronger. Part 14. Sensory adaptation in darkness. Now we turn from endurance to perception. In deep darkness, vision weakens. Some sharks evolve enormous eyes, maximizing faint light. Others reduce sight and strengthen smell, vibration sensing and electroreception, reading invisible electrical signatures of living bodies. The ocean teaches there is no single way to be a shark. Jung wrote, "The shoe that fits. One person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases." Humans, too, are diverse in perception. Some rely on clarity and planning. Others navigate by intuition, by subtle atmosphere. Perhaps you are not meant to see far in bright daylight. Perhaps you are designed to sense invisible signatures. Until you make the unconscious conscious, to perceive inner life logic alone is insufficient. Dreams, symbols, intuition become senses of the soul. Not one adaptation is superior. Each suits its depth. If light fades in your life, perhaps it is time to strengthen another sense. You may not see the road clearly, but you may feel the next step precisely. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. To sense transformation between souls requires more than sight. It requires inner electroreception, empathy. Maybe you are not blind. Maybe you are using the wrong sense. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Tonight, as lights dim, notice your breath, your heartbeat, subtle signals once drowned by daytime noise. There is no single way to become whole. Darkness does not demand uniformity. It invites authenticity. Maturity may mean sensing what cannot be seen. Freedom is not becoming everyone else. It is understanding your design. The deep sea does not require every creature to glow. It keeps those who adapt. So before sleep, whisper softly to yourself, "The way I perceive the world is valid. My structure is not a flaw. I can grow in my own way." In gentle darkness, you need not see everything clearly. Trust that the invisible signatures of life are guiding you quietly, deeply, precisely, in a way uniquely yours. And in that trust, sleep arrives like deep water without light, yet full of quiet knowing. Part 15. The greatest threat, humans. If in the previous section, we spoke about the different ways sharks adapt their senses in darkness, each species with its own structure, its own strategy for survival, then here the picture becomes quieter, more solemn. This is no longer a story of natural evolution, no longer a test of pressure or primordial night. The greatest threat now does not come from the deep sea, but from a being that lives on land beneath bright sunlight, human beings. For hundreds of millions of years, sharks survived immense geological upheavals. They witnessed mass extinctions, shifting oceans, meteor impacts. They adapted, adjusted, and continued to swim. Yet, in just the past few decades, a new pressure has emerged. Silent, persistent, organized, and global. Targeted fishing is part of the story. But alongside it is bycatch, when sharks are unintentionally caught in nets not meant for them. Nets stretching for kilometers do not distinguish intention. In the darkness of the ocean, sharks cannot read human purpose, and so they become trapped. Unlike many bony fish that reproduce quickly, sharks mature late. They carry their young for long periods and give birth to relatively few offspring. Their rhythm of life was shaped for a stable ocean, where threats were dispersed and random. Under continuous fishing pressure, that biological design becomes a vulnerability. When a population declines, recovery is slow. Some species require decades to rebuild their numbers if they are given the chance. The pressure of the shark fin trade makes the story harsher still. A small part of the body becomes a global commodity. Short-term economic value creates long-term exploitation, and the decline does not happen loudly like a storm. It unfolds quietly, one individual at a time, one region at a time, until one day, the absence is too vast to ignore. Here, the ocean becomes a mirror, reflecting modern human psychology. Carl Gustav Jung once warned, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." For when we look deeply into human nature, we see not only creativity and love, but ambition, fear, and greed. Jung called this the shadow, the unconscious part we often refuse to acknowledge. Perhaps the greatest danger to sharks is not merely nets or hooks, but the unexamined shadow within the human soul. Human beings can reason, calculate, optimize. We can design fishing systems so efficient that the ocean cannot adapt quickly enough. Yet we do not always calculate the biological limits of slow-living species. We are accustomed to rapid growth, short profit cycles, quarterly numbers that must rise higher than before. Sharks live by the rhythm of decades. This misalignment creates a pressure more persistent than ancient catastrophes. A meteor strike is sudden. Modern pressure is continuous, relentless. It resembles a quiet leak slowly eroding a foundation. In personal psychology, this is familiar. Some crises arrive like storms, intense, dramatic, then passing. But other pressures are quieter. Constant comparison, social expectations, accelerated lifestyles, financial anxiety, the feeling of needing to always be enough. They do not destroy immediately, yet over time, they erode. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." If we do not recognize the shadow within our unconscious motives, fears, ambitions, we act from it and call the consequences destiny. At a collective level, this leads to ecological outcomes. At a personal level, it can lead to exhaustion, loss of direction, and the quiet fading of joy. Sharks do not vanish before our eyes in shocking spectacle. Their populations decline gradually, and humans often respond only when numbers reach alarm. So too in inner life. We ignore small signs of fatigue, poor sleep, rising irritability, diminishing enthusiasm. We tell ourselves we are fine, until one day we realize we have drifted far from balance. Modern pressure is more persistent than ancient catastrophe, because it is sustained by the very systems we participate in each day. Yet, if humans are the greatest threat, humans may also be the greatest hope. Jung believed in transformation when individuals become conscious of their shadow. He wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." When we look directly at the consequences of collective behavior, at the quiet decline of living populations, we open the possibility of change. In the darkness of the deep-sea sharks, adapted for millions of years. But in this era, adaptation alone may not be enough without adjustment from humanity. This places upon us an ethical responsibility, not only to the ocean but to our own souls. For the way we treat the external ecosystem reflects how we treat the internal one. If we exhaust the strongest parts of ourselves, our energy will time without allowing recovery. We too will decline quietly like shark populations. If we cut off parts of ourselves because they lack market value, we repeat the same pattern. And perhaps tonight, before sleep, you might ask gently, what pressures am I creating in my life without noticing? What part of myself am I exploiting without giving it time to mature slowly? From here, the journey may move toward restoration, toward conservation efforts and the hope that humans can become guardians rather than destroyers. But before continuing, remain a moment in this stillness. Imagine a shark swimming through dark water, unaware of invisible nets in the distance. The image is not meant to evoke fear, but awareness. For the greatest pressure is not what we cannot control. It is what we create without realizing. And when we begin to realize even a small transformation has already begun, let tonight's sleep not only be rest, but a pause in which the shadow becomes a little more conscious. From that awareness, both the outer ocean and the inner ocean may find healing. When we say humans are the greatest threat, it is not condemnation but invitation. Only a conscious species can regulate its behavior. Sharks cannot accelerate their maturation to match market demand. Humans can change consumption, fishing practices, and definitions of value. The decline of sharks is not dramatic like a tsunami. It is like a weakening heartbeat, a graph slowly descending year by year. And because it is gradual, it is easily overlooked. Deep personal wounds often arrive in the same way, not one great shock, but hundreds of days without rest. Not one event, but countless ignored emotions. We continue functioning, fulfilling responsibilities, smiling, until one day we discover we are depleted within. Humans can build global extraction systems. We can also build conservation systems, laws, community awareness. The issue is not capacity, but direction. Pressure persists because habit persists. Habit changes when consciousness changes. Tonight you may not transform an entire fishing industry, but you can observe how you treat the populations within you, your energy, your time, your compassion. Are you exhausting them to quiet decline or allowing recovery? Sharks mature slowly. So does the human soul. Inner growth does not occur in a weekend seminar. It requires years' experience and silence. Perhaps the deepest lesson is not fear, but rhythm. The ocean has its rhythm. Life has its rhythm. When that rhythm is forced faster than nature allows, breakdown begins. Before sleep, ask gently, where can I slow down? What pressure can I reduce even slightly to prevent quiet erosion within myself and around me? The greatest threat is human, but the greatest hope is human too. Amid declining numbers, there are conservation efforts, marine reserves, scientists, local communities, shifting perspectives. And within each person, amid old habits, the possibility of new choice remains. Let that awareness grow gently tonight, not in self-blame, but in deep understanding that each small choice creates a ripple. The deep sea still breathes, sharks still swim, and humans, if conscious enough, can become guardians rather than sources of pressure. Let sleep carry you into a quieter ocean, where pressure is recognized, where darkness is made conscious, where hope begins not with noise but with a soft decision in the heart. Part 16. Solutions and conservation efforts. If the previous section invited us to face an uncomfortable truth that the greatest threat to sharks comes not from ancient seas, but from humans, then here the rhythm softens. For once the shadow is seen, the next step is not despair but choice. And where there is choice, there is hope. In the vast ocean, change sometimes begins with something very small. A circular hook, instead of a traditional J-hook, can significantly reduce injury when sharks are accidentally caught. Its design prevents deep internal hooking, increasing survival when released. A technical adjustment, yet within it lies a subtle shift of mindset, from maximum extraction to minimized harm. Not a miracle, but a decision. Shark sanctuaries have been established in various parts of the world. On maps, they are invisible boundaries drawn across water. Yet their effectiveness depends on something deeper: enforcement. A law lives only when collective consciousness sustains it. Otherwise, it is ink on paper. Again, we see a reflection of the human psyche. Jung wrote, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people." When humans recognize their ecological impact and the long-term consequences of short-term behavior, we begin building sanctuaries, not only in the sea, but within the mind. An inner sanctuary may be a healthy boundary in relationships, protected rest, a refusal to exploit oneself beyond limits. But like marine reserves, boundaries matter only when honored. Tracking technology has revealed that sharks migrate across national borders. Conservation cannot be local alone. Life does not obey human-drawn lines. Jung described the psyche as a self-regulating system, maintaining equilibrium. If we nurture one part and neglect another, balance is lost. Sharks remind us that ecosystems are interconnected. So is humanity. A choice in one place affects life elsewhere. Ecotourism offers another gentle shift. In some regions, a living shark generates more long-term economic value through respectful tourism than through capture. Value shifts from ownership to preservation, from value when exploited to value when alive. In personal life, do we measure worth by productivity and immediate utility, or recognize inherent value in simply being? Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." To become who we truly are, we need an environment that allows us to live, not merely to be used. Conservation is not impossible. It is choice. Choice to redesign tools. Choice to establish and respect boundaries. Choice to cooperate internationally. Choice to value life alive. Above all, choice to be conscious. The ocean does not demand perfection. It responds to action. Each small change creates a ripple. So does each small decision to protect your own energy, to nurture fragile parts within. Tonight, imagine a sea where sharks swim freely through protected reefs, where monitoring tags trace long migrations, where humans stand not with nets, but with respect. Conservation is not impossible. It is a decision repeated daily. And like your soul, if protected, respected, harmonized, it will return to natural balance. The deep sea taught us about pressure. Sharks taught us about adaptation. Humans now have the opportunity to learn responsibility. In the stillness of night, perhaps one question remains. Tomorrow, what will I choose? Sleep does not escape the world. It restores energy for new choices. And in those choices, both outer and inner oceans may heal. Part 17. Extraordinary Reproductive Strategies. If we spoke before of choice, of standing on the side of life, now we return to a deeper natural layer, the extraordinary reproductive strategies of sharks. Here, life is shaped by oceanic pressure even before birth. Female sharks seek shallow nursery areas, reefs, seagrass beds where young can hide and feed. Even the ocean's symbol of power begins life protected. Yet protection does not last forever. Young sharks grow quickly, as if aware the vast sea does not wait. Some species practice oophagy embryos, feeding on unfertilized eggs. In rarer cases, embryonic cannibalism occurs with only the strongest surviving. Harsh, perhaps. Yet within ocean rhythm it is preparation. Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Growth, biological or psychological, involves tension and selection. Even rarer is parthenogenesis, virgin birth demonstrating life's flexibility in adversity. Psychologically, it mirrors our capacity for self-renewal when external support is absent. Sharks remind us, life protects when necessary, grows when possible, selects when required, adapts when no option remains. Tonight, imagine a young shark in warm shallows carrying millions of years of adaptation within its body. Like you, once fragile, shaped by invisible pressures yet surviving. Pressure does not only crush, it shapes. Sleep becomes a return to your inner nursery, a safe place to restore before swimming again tomorrow. Part 18. Subtle and surprising behavior. Now we move from structure to behavior. Sharks can enter tonic immobility, temporary paralysis when inverted. A creature of motion becomes still. Humans, too, experience psychological freezing, not weakness, but protection. In all chaos, there is a cosmos, in all disorder, a secret order, Jung wrote. Sharks form symbiotic relationships with remoras, cleaner fish. Even apex predators need cooperation. Strength does not exclude connection. They hunt at dusk, choosing rhythm rather than impulse. Some species coordinate attacks in turns. They investigate with gentle touches, not always aggression, curiosity rather than violence. Jung wrote, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct. Curiosity is sacred play." Sharks are not mere instinct. They have rhythm and strategy. So do you. Sometimes you need stillness, sometimes connection, sometimes patience. Sleep may be a gentle tonic, immobility, a pause for recalibration. You are not only instinct, you have strategy, you have rhythm. Part 19. Physiological and environmental adaptation. Sharks lack swim bladders. Many must keep moving to stay afloat. Some humans too need movement and purpose to maintain buoyancy in life. Yet some sharks can swallow air for temporary lift, a short-term adjustment. We too have small air bubbles, a kind word, a breath, a book before sleep. Sharks respond to sound, to chemical changes, to temperature shifts. We respond to emotional atmospheres. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents, Jung wrote. When water's warm, sharks migrate. When life's temperature changes, we adjust too. Adaptation is not loss of identity. It is life's intelligence expressed. Tonight, listen to your inner ocean. Adjust gently. Trust the system within you. Part 20. Nutrition, connection, and climate. Sharks transport nutrients from deep offshore waters to coastal reefs. They are circulatory currents in Earth's vast body. Likewise, we carry lessons from deep experiences back into daily life. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers, Jung wrote. Sharks help maintain seagrass ecosystems. Their presence protects gentler life. The shadow integrated sustains balance. They are indicator species, signs of ecosystem health. What are your indicators of inner balance? Sharks are not separate from the ocean, nor are you separate from your ecosystem of relationships. Protecting sharks protects ocean structure. Protecting your shadow protects your soul's structure. Tonight, imagine reefs swaying, and somewhere in deep blue darkness, a shark gliding quietly, sustaining balance. Your presence too may nourish invisible systems around you. Sleep now. Trust the balance. For the ocean survives not by one species alone, but by harmony. And within that harmony, each being fearsome or gentle holds an irreplaceable role. Part 21. Evolutionary, traces and myth. If in the previous section we looked at sharks as an ecological link, a heartbeat that prevents the ocean's structure from collapsing, then tonight, as all sounds gradually soften and consciousness slows, like a receding tide, we enter another depth, the depth of time. Not only the living ocean, but the ocean of the past. Not only biology, but memory. Sharks do not belong only to the present. They carry within them the traces of millions of years of evolution and cast their shadow across human mythology. Let us begin with a name that echoes like thunder beneath the sea: Megalodon. That colossal creature, once ruler of prehistoric oceans, is believed to have hunted even whales. Imagine a body stretching dozens of meters, teeth larger than an adult human hand, gliding through ancient waters where other giants also rose and vanished. Megalodon no longer exists, yet the idea of it still sends a quiet shiver through us. What is fascinating is that most evidence of Megalodon is not a complete skeleton, but teeth. Fossilized teeth. Triangular, sharp, the size of a palm rest in sediment, like hardened fragments of time's memory. The body dissolves. Cartilage does not fossilize easily, but the teeth remain. On a deeper level, this resembles the human soul. Much of the past dissolves with time. Soft memories, fragile emotions, passing words, all may drift away like sand beneath water. But there are teeth of experience, sharp moments, events that cut to the core, that remain embedded in the ground of the unconscious. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. These psychological fossils, the surviving teeth of the past, can shape how we react, how we love, how we fear. If we do not recognize them, we may believe everything is merely destiny. Megalodon, though extinct, still lives within the collective imagination as a symbol of primordial power. In analytical psychology, Jung spoke of archetypes, patterns that exist within the collective unconscious of humanity. He wrote, "The archetype is a tendency to form such representations of a motif. Representations that can vary a great deal in detail without losing their basic pattern. A giant shark hunting whales, a vast shadow beneath the sea, perhaps. These are archetypal images of the great predator of power beyond control. Yet what makes the story deeply human is that shark teeth did not remain buried forever. In many ancient cultures, shark teeth were used as tools and ornaments. They were sharpened into blades, embedded into weapons, or worn as symbols of power and protection. Here, something remarkable occurs. Human beings take a fragment of the predator and integrate it into their own lives. Not only fear, but transformation. Not only avoidance, but use. This is precisely the journey Jung called individuation, the process by which a person confronts and integrates the shadow rather than denying it. He wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. When a shark's tooth becomes a tool, the darkness of the ocean has been transformed into the capacity for survival." In Polynesian traditions, sharks are not merely creatures. They are connected to ocean navigation, to ancestors, to guiding spirits. In certain stories, a shark appears as an aumakua, a family guardian spirit emerging to guide the way across vast waters. It is a beautiful image to hold before sleep, a creature once feared becoming a guide. What does this reveal about the human mind? Perhaps that what we fear most may also become a source of guidance if we learn how to listen. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. To become who we truly are, we must dare to enter the inner ocean, where our megalodons of memory dwell, where fossilized teeth of trauma remain, where shadows lie in depth. If we see them only as monsters, we will forever flee. But if we see them as part of collective memory, as primordial energy capable of transformation, we may discover within them direction." Sharks do not belong only to biology. They belong to human memory. They live in fossils, in ancient ornaments, in oceanic legends. And perhaps they live within each of us, as symbols of primal strength, of fear, and of transformation. As you lie down and the lights dim, imagine standing on an ancient shore. Beneath the sand lies a fossil tooth, a fragment of a past millions of years old. You bend down and lift it. It is no longer a weapon. It is memory. It is a story of existence and disappearance. Your life too contains such fossils. Experiences that have passed. Versions of yourself that no longer exist. Yet their traces remain. Instead of fear, you may gently ask, "What can I learn from this trace? Can I turn it into a tool rather than a burden?" In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. Millions of years of evolution, countless extinctions and renewals, together they form a structure we barely comprehend. And in personal life, the chaos of the past may also contain an order waiting to be recognized. Tonight before sleep, allow yourself to feel the vastness of time. You are not merely a small individual in the present moment. You are the result of evolutionary chains, ancestral stories, ancient archetypes, living in the collective unconscious. Like sharks swimming across millions of years, you are swimming through the ocean of your life. Some parts will dissolve. Some parts will fossilize into memory. But if you dare to look within, making the unconscious conscious, you may turn the teeth of the past into a compass for the future. Sleep with that thought. You do not belong only to the biology of this body, but to the memory of humanity. And within that depth lies a gentle comfort. You are not alone in the ocean. You are continuing a story far longer than today's anxieties. Part 22. Modern Science and the unknown if. Previously, we walked among fossils and myths, where sharks lived within collective memory and archetype. Then tonight, we enter another space, the space of modern science. Here, laboratory light replaces moonlight on the sea. Scanners, data, and hydrodynamic models replace Polynesian legends. Yet strangely, the more advanced humanity becomes, the more we realize we are still learning from a species that existed before trees grew upon land. One astonishing discovery was the identification of the megamouth shark, first recorded in 1976. Its existence reminds us that the ocean still conceals immense secrets. A creature, several meters long, lived in deep darkness for millions of years, while humans barely knew it existed. If so much remains undiscovered outside us, how many new species remain hidden within the human soul? Jung wrote, "The unconscious is not just evil by nature, it is also the source of the highest good." Like the deep sea, the unconscious contains not only imagined monsters but untapped potential. Perhaps within each of us lives a megamouth, a strange, little-known part that once recognized expands our inner map. Modern science has also shown that some sharks can be identified individually by unique skin patterns, spots, and markings like fingerprints. This challenges the old image of sharks as uniform, anonymous beings driven only by instinct. Each individual is a story, and this touches the heart of individuation. Jung believed the goal of life was not to dissolve into the collective, but to become oneself. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. If, even in the vast ocean, each shark carries a distinct pattern, perhaps humans were never meant to live as pale copies of others. Science has also dismantled harmful myths, such as the belief that shark cartilage cures cancer. Modern immunological research has found no reliable scientific evidence supporting such claims. Humanity in desperation projected hope onto sharks, leading to widespread exploitation. Projection changes the world into the replica of one's own unknown face, Jung warned. When we project unconscious expectations onto nature, we distort truth. By removing illusions, science restores biological dignity to sharks. They are not miracles to be consumed, but beings with ecological roles. In psychological life, shedding illusion does not impoverish us, it matures us. Scientists have also studied the microscopic structure of shark skin dermal denticles to reduce drag in technology from ship hulls to high-performance swimwear. Humans are learning from a species that predates trees. There is humility in that. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. What seems rough or chaotic contains intricate design. So too do the conflicting emotions within us. Sharks existed before forests. Rather than diminish us, this perspective may comfort us. You are not an isolated accident. You carry millions of years of adaptation in your reflexes, your emotions, your dreams. Sleep tonight with gentle humility. Humanity is still learning from sharks, and you are still learning from yourself. You do not need to know everything to continue the journey. Part 23. From fear to respect, perhaps our long journey, from primordial myth to fossil traces to modern science, leads to a quiet point within the soul, where fear dissolves and gives way to respect. Sharks once symbolized dread, sharp teeth, swift movement, sudden presence in deep water. But if we look longer and deeper, we realize the fear was not only about the creature, it belonged to our own shadow. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, Jung wrote. Marine biology now shows sharks as ecological balancers. Where sharks remain, ecosystems remain intact. Where they disappear, imbalance spreads. Similarly, when we attempt to eliminate all sharpness within ourselves, anger, ambition, boundaries, we may think we are becoming gentler, but perhaps we are removing the very forces that maintain balance. The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed. The final image is not a bite, It is a silent movement beneath night water, a primordial creature swimming in its rightful rhythm. Let that image become a symbol for you. You are not as fragile as fear once whispered. You are deeper and more resilient. Tonight, lay the phone down. Relax your shoulders. Soften your jaw. Let your breath slow. The darkness is not an enemy. It is the ocean's blanket. Sleep peacefully, and when you dream, dream like the ocean, vast, compassionate, and unafraid of your own depth. Good night.